Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready for a story that will leave you thinking. And if you love inspiring tales, a like goes a long way. You're done here. 5 guards surrounded the boy as cameras flashed across the perfectly manicured lawn. 15-year-old Marcus stood rigid, jaw clenched, refusing to lower his eyes while wealthy donors watched from their cocktail tables. He hadn't started this, but he would be the one removed. Again, the annual Summer Hope fundraiser buzzed with activity. Reporters capturing celebrities with disadvantaged youth, corporate sponsors posing with oversized checks, and camp counselors showcasing their success stories. Nobody noticed the smaller boy with thick glasses hiding behind a tree, wiping tears while watching his brother being escorted out. Nobody except one person. Leonardo DiCaprio paused mid-conversation, his attention drawn to the commotion. He'd come to support the foundation as its celebrity ambassador, but something in the teenager's defiant stance caught his eye. The boy wasn't causing trouble. He was containing fury, protecting something. Leo had played enough characters to recognize the difference between rebellion and righteousness. If this moment made you feel something, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button and stay with us. Subscribe now. Camp Director Westfield cut through the crowd with practiced efficiency. His voice lowered for the security team, but loud enough for nearby donors to hear. That's Marcus Reed, been trouble since day one. His file's a nightmare. He straightened his camp-branded polo, ensuring the corporate sponsors could see his swift handling of the situation. Marcus was being marched toward the parking lot, his shoulders squared despite the humiliation. 3 months in this second chance program, and he was being discarded during its showcase event, the moment meant to celebrate transformation and hope. Marcus had learned early that adults rarely wanted the full story. His social worker had warned him about his attitude problem before sending him and his brother here. Keep your head down. Don't make waves. Be grateful for the opportunity. But nobody had mentioned what to do when Jake's glasses were stolen again, when the counselor's son called his brother charity trash behind the adults' backs. Across the lawn, Jake hovered near the refreshment table, desperately trying to blend into the background. At 10 years old, he'd perfected the art of invisibility, a skill developed through years in the system. Without Marcus beside him, he felt exposed. His brother was his shield, his voice, his only constant in a world of temporary homes and forgotten promises. The other kids would be worse now, emboldened by Marcus's removal, circling closer like predators sensing weakness. DiCaprio watched the scene unfold while half listening to a banker discussing tax benefits of charitable foundations. Something about the situation felt wrong. The teenager's rigid posture, the smaller boy's obvious distress, the self-satisfied expression on the director's face. Leo had spent decades portraying characters who stood against injustice. He'd researched enough roles to recognize authentic emotion beneath a hardened exterior. This wasn't a troublemaker being removed. This was something else entirely. He excused himself from the conversation, drawing curious glances as he moved against the flow of the carefully orchestrated event. "He was just defending me," Jake whispered to no one, fingers nervously adjusting his damaged glasses. A camp counselor named Bryce had walked past, deliberately bumping into him. "Sorry, didn't see you there," Bryce had sneered while his friends laughed. When Jake had tried to move away, Bryce grabbed his glasses, holding them just out of reach. That's when Marcus appeared, his voice low but intense. "Give them back." "Now." The counselor had smirked, dropping the glasses to the ground. "Oops." When Marcus stepped forward, Bryce shouted for help, claiming he was being threatened. The truth wasn't complicated, but it rarely mattered in places like this. Marcus had learned that lesson in 3 different foster homes, 2 schools, and now this summer program that promised to build character in troubled youth. The system wasn't designed to hear his side, especially when the other side belonged to the son of the program's head counselor. As Marcus was pushed toward the exit, he had only one thought. Jake would be alone now. Things are about to take a turn. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe, like our video, and keep watching. We have a zero-tolerance policy for aggressive behavior, Director Westfield explained to the security team as they reached the parking lot. He threatened a counselor in front of everyone. Can't have that kind of example, especially today. Marcus stood silently, knowing words would only make things worse. He'd be sent back to the group home tonight, separated from Jake until their social worker figured out what to do with them. Probably another split placement, another broken promise about keeping brothers together. Where's his case file? The familiar voice cut through the tension. Leonardo DiCaprio stood several feet away, hands casually in his pockets, but his presence immediately transformed the dynamic. The security guards straightened. The director's expression shifted from authoritative to accommodating in an instant. Mr. DiCaprio, I didn't realize you were just handling a disciplinary situation. Nothing to worry about. Leo's expression remained pleasant but determined. I'd like to understand what happened. This is a program I'm considering supporting substantially. The last sentence hung in the air, a reminder of power and resources the Foundation desperately needed. Director Westfield's expression flickered between annoyance and opportunity. Of course, Mr. DiCaprio. Happy to explain. He gestured toward Marcus without actually looking at him. This young man has a history of confrontational behavior. Today, he verbally threatened one of our most dedicated counselors. In front of donors and other campers, we simply can't allow that kind of influence in our program. The explanation was smooth, practiced, the kind that satisfied board members and grant reviewers who never looked deeper. Leo nodded thoughtfully, then turned directly to Marcus. What's your name? The question hung in the air, simple yet profound in its departure from protocol. No one had asked Marcus to speak. The director quickly interjected, This is Marcus Reed, one of our more challenging cases. We've tried extensive intervention, but... Leo raised his hand slightly, interrupting with quiet authority. I'd like to hear from Marcus. The silence that followed was electric. Marcus looked up, meeting the actor's gaze directly for the first time. No one asked for his side. Ever. Marcus Reed, he finally said, his voice steadier than he felt. What happened today, Marcus? Leo asked, his tone conversational yet focused. The director shifted uncomfortably. Mr. DiCaprio, perhaps we should discuss this privately. These situations can be complex, and our protocols... Leo's attention remained fixed on Marcus. I'm interested in hearing all perspectives. Something in his voice carried the weight of someone who understood what it meant to be unheard. Marcus hesitated, years of institutional distrust warring with the unexpected opportunity to speak. My brother Jake, he's 10. Some of the guys here mess with him. His words came slowly at first, then gained momentum. Today, one of the counselors, Bryce, he took Jake's glasses, wouldn't give them back. Marcus's fists clenched at the memory. He dropped them on purpose. I told him to leave Jake alone. Director Westfield scoffed audibly. That's hardly the full story. Bryce reported that Marcus threatened him with physical violence. But Leo had noticed something the others missed, a small figure hovering at the edge of the parking lot. Is that your brother? He asked, nodding toward Jake, who stood partially hidden behind a decorative shrub. Marcus's expression softened momentarily. "Jake," he called, "come here. This story is only getting deeper. What would you do in this situation? Comment below, and let's talk." Jake approached cautiously, each step revealing his reluctance to enter the circle of authority figures. His glasses sat crookedly on his face, one lens visibly cracked. When he reached them, he instinctively positioned himself behind his brother. Leonardo knelt down, bringing himself to Jake's eye level, a gesture that transformed the power dynamic of the entire scene. "Hey there, I'm Leo." The simplicity of the introduction, devoid of celebrity pretense, momentarily disarmed everyone present. "Your glasses look damaged," Leo observed gently. "Did that happen today?" Jake glanced nervously at the director before nodding. Leo continued, "Would you feel comfortable telling me what happened?" The director interjected quickly, "Mr. DiCaprio, he's just a child. Children often misinterpret situations." Leo remained focused on Jake, his expression open and patient. In that moment, he wasn't a Hollywood star but simply an adult who was actually listening. Jake's voice was barely audible. "Bryce took my glasses. He called me charity trash." His fingers touched the cracked lens. "When I tried to get them back, he held them up high. Then he dropped them and stepped on them." Jake swallowed hard. Marcus just told him to stop. He didn't do anything wrong. Director Westfield's face flushed. "This is absurd. Bryce is one of our most trusted counselors, the son of our head of programming." He straightened his blazer, summoning authority. "Mr. DiCaprio, while we appreciate your interest, we have established protocols for handling disciplinary issues. This matter has already been decided." The finality in his tone was clear. The conversation was over. Leo stood slowly, his expression thoughtful. "You know, I've played a lot of characters over the years." His voice carried easily, drawing attention from nearby staff who had begun to notice the unusual gathering. "But the ones that taught me the most were men who stood up when systems failed, when the easy path was looking away." He turned to face the director fully. "Your foundation's mission statement mentions creating safe havens where troubled youth can find their voice. I'm curious, whose voice are we hearing right now?" The question hung in the air, simple yet devastating in its clarity. Several staff members had drawn closer, including a woman with a clipboard who Leo recognized as the Foundation's development director. Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern as she assessed the situation. The director's confident demeanor wavered. "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. We could review the incident. Why don't we get Bryce over here?" Leo suggested, his tone still conversational yet carrying unmistakable weight. The development director nodded immediately, pulling out her phone. Director Westfield's protests died on his lips as he calculated the potential damage to donor relationships. Marcus stood straighter, a flicker of disbelief crossing his features. Someone with power was actually investigating rather than assuming. When Bryce arrived minutes later, his confident swagger dissipated upon seeing DiCaprio. Leo didn't waste time. "I understand there was an incident involving these brothers." His directness left no room for evasion. "Jake's glasses are broken. Do you know how that happened?" Bryce's eyes darted to his supervisor, seeking rescue but found none. The development director was watching intently, as were several major donors who had drifted over, curiosity piqued by the actor's unexpected involvement. "It was an accident," Bryce muttered. Leo nodded thoughtfully. "Accidents happen. But Jake says you called him charity trash and deliberately took his glasses." The accusation hung in the air. That doesn't sound accidental. Bryce's face reddened. He's lying. These kids make up stories all the time. But his voice cracked, betraying the truth. Leo turned to the growing crowd. Sometimes the truth sounds like rebellion when no one's listening for it. It's not over yet. The best part is coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. The Foundation's development director stepped forward, her professional smile replaced with genuine concern. Mr. DiCaprio, I want to personally thank you for bringing this to our attention. She turned to Marcus and Jake. And thank you both for your courage in speaking up. The transformation was immediate, from invisible problems to acknowledged human beings. She addressed the director directly. We'll need a full review of this incident and our response protocols. Immediately. The crowd that had gathered began to disperse, but the energy had shifted. Donors who came for photo opportunities were witnessing something authentic, real change happening in real time. Several board members had joined the circle, their expressions grave as they processed the implications. One older woman stepped forward. I'd like to speak with these young men further about their experience in our program. She wasn't asking permission. Marcus stood stunned, one arm protectively around Jake's shoulders. This outcome defied everything his experience had taught him about authority and justice. People with power rarely changed direction, rarely admitted missteps, rarely chose truth over convenience. Yet here it was happening, catalyzed by Leonardo DiCaprio's simple act of listening. 2 hours later, as the fundraiser concluded, the landscape had transformed. Bryce had been suspended pending investigation. Director Westfield was engaged in serious conversations with the board chair. And Marcus and Jake sat at a table with Leonardo DiCaprio, sharing stories over plates of untouched barbecue. My foundation works with environmental causes, Leo explained, but I've been looking to expand into youth advocacy. His eyes met Marcus's. Kids who stand up for what's right, even when it costs them, that's who changes the world. The development director approached their table, her expression professional but warmer than before. We've arranged for Jake's glasses to be replaced tomorrow. She hesitated, then added, and we're implementing a full review of our disciplinary procedures. This shouldn't have happened. For the first time that day, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Jake's eyes widened behind his cracked lenses. Really? The simple question contained years of disappointment and disbelief. Leo watched the exchange, understanding its significance. Systems rarely changed for kids like Marcus and Jake, kids whose voices were systematically discounted, whose truth was routinely questioned. But today, something had shifted. A small crack in a flawed system, wedged open by someone who used their influence when it mattered most. As they prepared to leave, Leo placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. What you did today, standing up for your brother even when it cost you, that's real courage. His words carried the weight of someone who understood that heroism often came in quiet moments of principle, not dramatic gestures. Sometimes the most important voice is the one that speaks when everyone else stays silent. Marcus nodded, processing the validation that felt foreign after years of being labeled a troublemaker. Thank you, he said simply, the words containing multitudes. Jake looked up at Leonardo with newfound confidence. Will you come back to camp? The question held hope, not for a celebrity sighting, but for the continued presence of an adult who had demonstrated that truth mattered. Leo smiled. I will, and I'd like to hear more about both of your experiences. He glanced toward the Foundation officials, who were still engaged in serious discussion. Real change happens when we listen to the right voices. As they walked back toward the camp, Jake's hand in his brother's, something had fundamentally shifted. Not just in the program's policies or in the adults' perceptions, but in Marcus himself. For the first time, his instinct to protect hadn't marked him as dangerous. It had revealed his true character. Sometimes the truth sounds like rebellion, but today, finally, someone had listened. Wow, what a story! If this moved you, imagine what else we have for you. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know what you think.